I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Area Hospital District Board meeting. Tonight, we're going to start. We've got a little bit of an unusual change in the agenda. It was brought to our attention that when we appointed Arlene, that our notice was not, some of the T's were not crossed and I's were not dotted. We are in the process of correcting that because we want to do it correctly. But in order to make it right, we're going to reappoint her this evening. And with that, I would accept a motion in that thing.
I move that we continue forward with appointing Arlene Roblan to take the place of Martha Taylor, who put her resignation in, so that we have another member sitting for our board. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Call to question. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, again, officially board member. And let's go ahead and swear her in. So you'll go over there. Please.
I, Arlene Roblan, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policies of Bay Area Hospital District. During my term, I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the Bay Area Hospital Board of Directors member to the best of my abilities. Okay.
We're done. Thank you. Okay.
Oh.
How many times have I saved this agenda?
Thank you all very much. I am going to move now to public comment. Before that, I'm going to read a statement. To facilitate the success of this public input portion of tonight's board meeting, we ask you to please follow the rules below. Please wait to speak until you're called upon. You will be called upon in person, in number, order on the public comment form you filled out before the meeting started. Speakers may not convey or donate their time to another speaker. Please limit your speaking time to 3 minutes. Our timer will issue a 1 minute remaining warning. The main purpose of the public input section of the board meeting is to allow attendees to direct comments to the board of directors. No questions will be answered in the public input session. Please keep in mind that the purpose of public comment is to share your views. It's not a forum for public debate. No inappropriate comments or behavior will be tolerated. Inappropriate behavior is defined as insults, obscenities, or profanity, attacks against any person in their personal capacity, and or physical violence or thereof, or threat thereof. Any person that disrupts this meeting or otherwise interferes with the attendees' right to participate will be asked to leave. Number one, we have Tracy Sweetley.
Tracy Sweetley, Coos Bay. For this board to appoint their favorite candidate during the election is a clear ethical violation The ACLU, in a similar case, has deemed such tactics as providing an unfair electoral advantage. In this case, an attempt to tip the scales in Arlene Roblan's favor, undermining the democratic process. Appointing someone for the remainder of the term who was not running would have been ethical and a sorely needed demonstration of respect for the community. I request that each member of the board who voted to approve Roblan explain how they justify such an undemocratic action. And in Roblan's case, how you justify accepting such an undemocratic appointment is the promise of a nonprofit status in the bargain. For a few weeks now, Brian Moore and Troy Cribbins have asserted that negotiations with Quorum have been delayed in an effort to include provisions to preserve the district's nonprofit status. The fact that this was not part of the original negotiations, but more of an afterthought, demonstrates a laughable degree of desperation to convince the community now of this board's position that everything will be okay under the Quorum partnership. Legal precedents prohibit for-profit operations to exist in such a partnership. But perhaps some questionable business arrangements will be attempted in order to skirt those regulations. It would not be out of character, but would be an awfully big risk to take, just waiting to see if lawyers can prevail after the IRS revokes the nonprofit status. It risks the $31 million in charity care and financial assistance Bay Area Hospital is required by law to provide each year to this community, not to mention the district's nonprofit status itself, should the Quorum deal ever be terminated. Or perhaps it's as Chair Cribbins said at the recent candidate forum, Quorum is going to become a nonprofit. Despite the absurdity of the idea that Golden Tree Asset Management will ever relinquish such a lucrative asset, this again just seems like a desperate ploy to convince the public before the election that the current board has everything in hand. To suggest that the nonprofit status will be retained is a red herring of the highest order.
Thank you. Second, we have Judy Moody.
Judy Moody, Coos Bay. I saw this on Facebook. I just worked my last shift at the only hospital I've ever worked at since completing residency 15 years ago. I worked an overnight shift where I saw 0 patients. That's because my hospital was just closed. Crozer Chester Health System operated 4 of the 6 hospitals in Delaware County. We were the largest employer in the county, the only trauma center between Philadelphia and Wilmington, the only burn center between Philadelphia and Baltimore, the only psych center, crisis center in the county, one of 2 OB hospitals in the county, a stroke center, an interventional cardiology center. Prospect Medical Holdings, a private equity firm, bought us in 2019 when we were barely geeking by on $1 to $2 million in profits a year. Last year alone, our system lost $140 million. There is no level of incompetence in the world that could lose that much money by accident. This was purposeful, this was tactical. When Prospect bought us, they assigned a contract guaranteeing to keep all 4 hospitals open for a period of 10 years. They signed the contract knowing they were never going to honor it. They sold the land our hospital stood on. They took out a multi-billion-dollar loan on the system. They took that money and gave bonuses to their executives and investors. The hospital saw none of it. I've heard and read a lot of politicians talking about how can this ever happen again. Please do me a favor and stop talking. Your words are meaningless. I don't know if you don't care enough to stop this from happening or if you are physically incapable of stopping this from happening. It doesn't really matter because it's clear that you aren't stopping anything. You didn't stop Hanneman from closing. You didn't stop Springfield from closing. You didn't stop Brandywine from closing. You didn't stop Jennersville from closing. You didn't stop Delaware County Memorial from closing, and you didn't stop Taylor and Crozer from closing. That's 7 hospitals in 6 years just in the Philadelphia area alone. There are laws in place that prevent physicians from owning and operating hospitals. This is because politicians felt that doctors were too greedy and self-serving to ethically run their own. What this private equity group just did and what other private equity groups have done and continue to do is all 100% legal. Your politicians want to talk, tell me how that makes sense, and then tell me what you're going to do to fix it. Crozer Chester Medical Center in Upland, Pennsylvania was a 300-bed teaching hospital and regional medical campus for Drexel University College of Medicine. It was the main hospital for Crozer Health, which served Delaware County and surrounding areas. However, Crozer Health, including Crozer Chester Medical Center, permanently closed its doors on May 2nd, 2025.
Thank you. Is there anyone online who wishes to make public comment?
Yes, there is. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Jennifer Briggs.
Oh,
Yep.
great. This is Jennifer Briggs. Yes. I am coming before you today to express my concerns again regarding the proposed merger with Quorum Health and its implications for both patient care, the long-term viability of Bay Area Hospital, and also to address board transparency. There are still significant questions about the proposed merger with Quorum that continue to not be answered. How will they manage the hospital's payer mix? This particular problem is not going to change. Are we going to continue to care for all patients, particularly those who are underinsured or uninsured? We need transparency about how this merger will not harm vulnerable patients or disrupt essential services. We need to make sure there are safeguards to prevent the potential decline in quality of care or rising prices post-merger. Safeguarding the hospital's assets, both financial and physical, is paramount. You know, answers to these questions can be given in a general way. It doesn't have to be specific to give up corporate secrets, but it does need to be more than we're doing everything we can to protect the hospital and the community. You need to trust your elected officials. Lastly, I am also deeply disappointed by the recent actions of the board, particularly the hasty appointment of a new member to fill a recently vacated seat, especially when that new member is running in an election for that board seat. There were at least 2 other individuals who volunteered to take this open seat who expressed interest, which would have been an opportunity to welcome further input from the community. But instead, the board chose to appoint a new member at a last-minute board meeting, not properly noticed, corrected, but still not correctly noted on tonight's agenda. You know, actions like this continue to undermine trust in the board's process, actions, and motives. And it's too bad. And I really do hope that however this turns out, that it is for the best of the community. But please, again, what you are considering is essentially a change in management. And that can be done without merging with Quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Hearing nothing, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Report of the chairperson. The goal is stated, probably last board meeting again, that the reason for filling these empty board seats was only and for the express intent of having a full board as we move through this process. To the 2 individuals that were appointed, to their credit, they were fully explained to them that there was an election coming and that they potentially would only be a board member for a month or 2 months, depending on what the outcomes of the elections were. And they both said that they still thought it was important to participate and be part of the process. So I laud them for that, realizing that, they're going to join in this, not knowing how long it may or may not last. Secondarily, I want to continue our discussion on our partnership with Quorum. We continue to work in that vein. This has been from day one, 2 years ago, not about what any of us thought was right, what we thought should be good, or what we wished was the case. What this was about was based on evidence and what the market and what the consultants and experts in each of the fields have told us all along the path. That the way to get through this changing market is to be part of a larger system in order to offset those costs, in order to change those payer mixes, etc. Quorum in spite of the history of private equity, has been nothing but accommodating to work with the hospital to meet our particular community's needs. And as such, they continue to be in an effort to continue to keep us a nonprofit. I realize there is a portion of the community wishes that things were the way they were. I realize there's a portion of the community that feels like we can handle this locally. It has nothing to do with the talent and the intelligence that we have locally. We have clearly plenty of bright individuals with plenty of good ideas. The hard truth is that over 150 small hospitals over the past several years have closed. The hard truth is that over 70% of hospitals in our state alone are either losing money or at below a 5% margin. The question is not, can we grab ourselves by the bootstraps and have a good local idea? The fact is we need a larger system to help defer the costs. Again, and I'll finish my comments with, it's not about what I want or what I think should be. It's about how the market is and what healthcare is telling us where the direction we need to move. Thank you. I'll start down there. Darren.
Oh, goody.
Any comments?
Okay. Everybody hear me okay? I don't need the microphone, do I? Good. Troy touched on it. The fact is that the current marketplace does not support a small local hospital. There's just no way to do it. And the reason why joining somebody like Quorum or another consolidated group is you get economy of scale. Not only are they going to be able to do things like get supplies cheaper and everything else, we talked about, somebody asked about payer mix. We don't have to change our payer mix. They get paid better because they're larger. And that alone makes it a viable option to keep things moving forward with the hospital the way it is, given its considerable payer mix, which is not ideal for a hospital. We have far too much Medicare, Medicaid, and not enough private pay. And until that changes, which doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon, the only option is to get a better paying scale on the existing Medicare, Medicaid patients that we have.
Thank you. Arlene, would you like the microphone?
Sure.
There you go.
So, can you hear me?
I would like to address the concern about my appointment. So I came to this by my husband encouraging me to run for the board. I approached Troy and said, what do you think? I'm thinking about throwing my name in the hat there for that. And he said, sure. We do not have a close relationship. We know each other. I have said to Troy from the very beginning and to the other board members and the CEO that I'm solutions-based. I'm not a quorum person. I'm not anti-quorum. I'm not pro-quorum. I'm solutions-based. People send me information. I read it. I have always been my own thinker, and I will continue to do that. So no way should anybody take it that I've been appointed to the board that I'm a yes person. I would really appreciate that much respect. And I respect many people in the audience here. I know several of you. And I think if you've known me for very long, you know that's true. So I just wanted to make that statement. And I appreciate you being here. It's part of our civil duty to show up. Thanks.
I have a couple of comments. Two are personal. This last month, I had the, can't say pleasure, but I found myself at a hospital out of state unexpectedly with a stepfather. Was gone for a couple of weeks. And during that time, I sat in the ICU waiting room, and as any good accountant, I decided to pull the stats of that hospital just to see what they looked like. Nonprofit, 24 states, 30 billion in revenue. They're losing money. That's just the state of the hospital industry right now. I think that just goes to show that we need to do something different. That particular hospital is one of the largest networks in the United States. So there's a lot going on in the industry that just can't happen in our own local world of fixing things. I'm trying to put that into perspective. Other piece of that same equation is while I was sitting in that waiting room with my mother,
I had the opportunity to share with her what an electronic health record is. And I'd like to say my almost 80-year-old mother was absolutely amazed that she could have access to the health records and actually see what was going on, because we missed the doctor that was making his rounds because we were down in the cafeteria. Stepfather didn't have his hearing aids in, so he didn't really quite remember exactly what happened. Didn't know the doctor's name because it was a doctor that was filling in for another doctor. It was wonderful to sit down with my mother and say, hey, this is what you can do to see everything. And look, you can see what his vitals looked like before this event. It was a really wonderful, wonderful thing. On the flip side, I found myself locally having to deal with an office that does not have an electronic health record. I quickly realized I don't need to go there. I'm going to change doctors because of that factor. So I think that's something really important to keep in mind as we start looking forward, how valuable those electronic health records are, especially as we're more of a mobile society, because now I can go through those records with my mother, and she's in Arizona. So just throwing that out in perspective. Tied to that electronic health record is, of course, our looming loan debt that the hospital has. We are now in default on 2 of the particular metrics that the Bank of Montreal has put in place. So that's, again, not something that's being addressed out in the public forum. Everyone wants to talk about coming together, but nobody's really addressing how do we work through this looming debt. Financial reports, talk about transparency. The Finance Committee meeting notes are dated April 22nd. They are on the website now. They have been. Yes, they are. I'd be happy to show you on my phone.
The minutes,
The minutes of this meeting are on the
the
website
finance meeting,
of the
and
finance.
they just got put
meeting.
on there.
Still less than 30 days. The date of the meeting minutes are the 22nd. So this is all out here. You can read overall loss 4.7 million as of March. Year-to-date loss 15.9 million. It's all out there. Please take the time to read it.
Trees.
Sometimes I wonder what people are thinking when we've been trying to support the hospital, support the people that work here, support the community, getting them the health care they need. And we find things online, we find things in the shopper that are really detrimental to trying to support our local hospital. And I'm just not upset, but it makes me very curious where these people are getting their information when some of them I haven't seen at any board meetings, just they can go online, but to come in and actually have one-on-ones with some of the one-on-ones a couple of months ago in the lobby, and just that interaction and sharing. We didn't come to be board members to cause a lot of trouble. We wanted to try and support the hospital. I came in right before everything seemed to hit the fan. And it's been, yes, a huge learning experience for me. I was a nurse and worked in the hospital here for 40 years in different areas. And it's just the fact that I had one interpretation of how a hospital works from working here, and I've learned a completely different set of rules and regulations that the hospital has to follow. And a lot of that, we don't have the financial flexibility that we had 20 years ago. We don't have the commercial payers like we had 20 years ago. And so, and nothing is getting cheaper. It's getting harder and harder. And we don't have anything local to put money into the hospital. So how is the community going to benefit if we can't support the hospital locally? So we have to go outside the hospital. We we put our laundry out to 20 different hospitals. 8 of them came back and said they were slightly interested. That went down to 6. Then it went down to 4. And then it was 2. And we went and we looked at those 2 that were interested in us and had those discussions with them and got the information back. And then we were down to 1. So I don't know what else the board is supposed to do, but do their due diligence, attempt to save this hospital as best we can, not just for the employees or the fact that we have a hospital here, but the fact that we can continue the healthcare that we've established already at Berry Hospital over the past 50 years.
Thank you. Okay, let's dive into the compliance monitoring report. Ms. Howard, are you online? I see you. Floor is yours.
She's muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Certainly
Yes.
can.
Can you see me?
Cannot.
We can see your
Okay.
presentation.
Okay, all right,
Now we
There
got you.
are.
all right. Okay, sorry about that. I had a little bit of Wi-Fi connection issues, so I'm here now. Okay, so to jump right into the compliance report for the education completed, we had 73% was completed on time. 10% was late, and we still had, at the time of the end of the quarter, 17% that was delinquent. Privacy investigations, there were 19 new privacy investigation in 2025. 2 were carried over from the last quarter of 2024. And if we jump to the industry compliance watch, we looked at some of the activity that was going on in the first quarter, and we do this in terms of just keeping an eye on what's happening from a regulatory standpoint, whether or not there's any new focus on enforcement activities, new regulations, executive orders, and there were 3 noteworthy events during the first quarter. One was that there was an update to the HIPAA security, a proposed update to the HIPAA security rules, and that's focused on stricter cybersecurity requirements, including multi-factor authentication and encryption. So there is a lot of focus with all of the cyber security frauds and breaches that's happening. The government is putting more focus and more pressure on organizations to strengthen their cybersecurity. So we will probably see some new requirements coming down the pipe. Also, the OIG added a new item to its work plan, and we look at the work plan when we look in order to help guide us on our work plan and what areas we should be looking at. And there is now some focus on targeting hospitals for reporting adverse events, patient events. So we will probably be recommending that Bay Area Hospital start putting a little attention there and doing some monitoring and auditing, because that is now on the work plan and we may see some enforcement activity there. The other area is that there was an executive order that was issued for hospitals to strengthen their pricing disclosure. And basically what the executive order said is that they need to give accurate pricing as opposed to estimates. And in the past, it was pretty much doing estimates, and now the focus is making sure that hospitals can do actual pricing, which is a little challenging. So that is something that if this executive order stays in effect, that we will need to make sure that we are complying with that. All right. So lots of activity, as you all know. This is a pretty dynamic political environment. Lots of shifts. We don't have real indication right now as to kind of where the enforcement activity is going to be, because there is, there's cuts going on to CMS where a lot of that enforcement happens, and if there's staffing shortages, that may mean that there's not as many staff available for oversight. But also at the same time, this administration is putting focus on reducing fraud, waste, and abuse. So I think it's going to be keeping an eye out on what's happening and what's changing from in the political space that's impacting regulations that can affect the hospital. So that's where our focus is pretty much keeping our ear to the ground and making sure we're staying on top of what's happening that could impact Bay Area Hospital. Any questions there?
None.
Okay. So in terms of our normal program, looking at the elements, we did not update any policies and procedures during the first quarter. The compliance committee met twice during this quarter. Education, I mentioned the education numbers already, and the privacy notifications, and this is an indication of whether or not we're having effective lines of communication. And when we're getting reports, that lets us know that people are reaching out, communicating, and that we have methods to detect. We continue to make the policies and procedures available, and there were a number of audits that took place during the first quarter. 340B drug pricing program mock audit took place. The Financial Assistance Policy Administration, EHR system contingency planning, ad hoc. There were a number of ad hoc audits, and also the 2023 annual report of unauthorized disclosures to HHS was also made. There, in terms of ensuring that we are responding to what we see through investigations, through audits. One example of that is that BAH took corrective actions related to privacy violations. Also, our findings with the 340B audit, the mock audit, there were not a lot of issues there, but those things that we did identify, actions were taken in order to put some new policies in place and other corrective actions. Okay. You have the copy of the report, which goes into detail on all of the items that I discussed, so I won't read them line by line. And the other area that I will mention is the other compliance matters. And the other activity that the compliance department was involved in was related to the Quorum Health due diligence. During the first quarter, the compliance team provided.
Can I have you pause for just a minute? Can we move can we scroll the screen so we're on the same page?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, so what page?
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going, all the way past that. I covered all of this. This is just the detail that I mentioned. If anyone wants to read more detail, they can do that, because I covered that already in the summary area in the dashboard. So I'm talking about other compliance matters now, and that's the Quorum Health due diligence. So during the first quarter, we provided critical support for the due diligence. That meant providing documents, meeting with the external attorneys, both the attorneys for BAH and for Quorum, and Quorum's due diligence team, answering questions around the compliance program, its structure, operations, and oversight. this is also one of the areas where the OIG and its updated guidance, I think about a year ago, put emphasis on the importance of compliance being involved in any merger and acquisition, because that is a place a lot of times where there becomes gaps in the compliance program, particularly as going through the merger and acquisition. It's a lot of work. A lot of times there's a lot of moving parts. Oftentimes you have individuals joining, individuals leaving, and that's a lot of opportunities for there to be some oversight in the compliance program. For those organizations that's acquiring or merging, it's important for compliance to be involved in order to ensure that the organization is not inheriting compliance issues, or there's no compliance issues inherent in any kind of merger or acquisition. So we have been involved in all of the discussions related to compliance, and we remain available to provide any support as BAH navigates this time.
Any concerns with any of that so far?
No, I think that, as I had mentioned a couple of board meetings back, that it would be important for us to make sure we're maintaining a strong compliance program, because any organization that's looking to merge or acquire is going to want to make sure that they are not inheriting any kind of issues. So we have not identified anything that was an issue. Just in terms of my conversations with the attorneys, I didn't hear anything that stood out as a problem. But I just, I think that one thing that we are working on, and Brian and I have had some meetings about that, is just looking at kind of restructuring the compliance committee meeting, because we've had people leaving and new people joining. And so our intention is to make sure we have the right people on the committee, and to also do another training for the compliance committee, so that we make sure that everyone on the committee understands the compliance program, and also understands the compliance program in this environment, in terms of political environment, and also as BAH navigates this transition period. So no problems, just being proactive and making sure we are, as I said, kind of keeping our ear to the ground in terms of what's going on, and making sure new people that come on embrace the compliance program.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, is that everything for us then?
That's everything. As I said, you have the, we tried to restructure the report so that we have the summary information in the front, and then a lot more details. And I don't want to read each incident. I think that the board can do that at their leisure. And then if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, as always, thank you for the information. We appreciate your time.
I like the
Okay.
new setup. I like the new presentation.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let's move to the consent agenda. I would accept a motion on the consent agenda. Second? Got a motion, a second. Any question? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Okay, let's go to the Quality and Patient Safety Committee report. Patrice, the floor is yours.
We just had, we had a lovely meeting. We had a lot of really good information from Mr. Carter from our Bay Area Cancer Center. That they've had in the past year over 20,000 patient visits between the outpatient medical oncology, radiation oncology, and their infusion services, and of course with the new lab services. So they've been busy. We have we had a brief preliminary survey report because Joint Commission had just been there. And we really didn't have all of the information yet. More information will be coming next meeting. As far as I know, we did quite well with our Joint Commission survey. So that's a good thing. Kelly, we just have in here that you presented the leapfrog safety grade for spring of 2025. Do you have anything to say about that you'd like to share, or where we are on that?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Kelly.
I don't actually see her.
She is down at the bottom.
No, my apologies. I was fighting technology and trying to unmute myself. Actually, exited the meeting. Yeah, I'll have a full report for the board next board meeting if that's the board's desire. We did just come through our Joint Commission survey. We talked about in QPSC how all of the findings were either low limited or low pattern or moderate. So we didn't have any high risk or immediate threat findings in this survey. So compared to last survey, it was a much more successful survey.
And then you reported on the leapfrog safety grade last time. Anything?
Yes. So our most recent leapfrog safety grade was published, I believe, the 1st of this month. We talked about how those scores are calculated, and our safety rating is currently reported as a D based on the information that that Leapfrog has. We're in the process of completing the hospital survey that's due in June, I think June 30, and we anticipate much higher scores this time based on improvements in our structural measures. So all of our outcome measures, kind of the important thing to remember with Leapfrog, how they score their survey, it's 50% outcome measures, which is what actually happens to the patient. So the number of infections, the number of adverse events or occurrences. And in that realm, we scored with the national average on all measures. So we don't have any measures that are hanging out kind of lower than the 50th percentile. Where we have room for improvement is in our structural measures. So like policies and procedures and stuff. And that's the stuff that we're getting at in this calendar year, and will reflect on our next survey. So that's also rated at 50% of the Leapfrog score.
Thank you, Kelly. And also, there were no catheter-acquired urinary tract infections in January, February, no central line associated bloodstream infections. Our PSI 90 met the goal in January and February. There were no surgical site infections or sepsis data for January, February to report. Readmissions did not meet the goal, meaning we're still having too many readmissions within 30 days of the discharge. And mortality, again, did not meet the goal in January, but it did meet the goal in February. So there's different things going on behind the scenes trying to improve all of these activities.
Thank you, Patrice. Any questions from the board? No? Okay, let's go ahead and then move to finance. Mitch, are you prepared to maybe go through the summary on that for us, or? Kind of caught you off guard?
Working on it.
It'll be page 45 in the packet.
31 in the.
I apologize. I should have probably given you a little bit of heads up, but I just noticed we didn't have anybody on the board to. Just a point of order, as I know as we move forward. We approved the $250,000, it says Brandon Dunes. Sure, that's a typo. It should be Bandon Dunes.
So I'll speak to the month of March and a little bit of the year-to-date numbers. So month of March saw total net revenue at slightly over 19 million. This is compared to a budget of 23 million. You can see year-to-date, we're actually below our budget as far as net revenue. Talked about a lot of the issues we talked about before about payer mix. One thing that we had this month is that we had a RAC audit, which goes back a number of years. So Medicare comes and audits our account for a number of years, makes sure they have the right documentation and all that. If they don't have anything specific and exactly as it should be, they'll take the money back. We will appeal it, which we have done to try to get that money back. So that was a $337,000 hit. We also had some payer mix issues this month, along with we do averages as far as estimating what we expect to collect. We had some that came in a little bit unfavorable, so that's why net revenue came in a little bit less than budget. Our salaries and wages came slightly over budget at 10.8 million by 180,000. Contract labor though was favorable compared to budget at 1.4 million, so favorable by 89,000. Depreciation, you can see it's a little bit favorable. What happened there is actually, if you see the net operating loss, so we took an accounting charge because we implemented Workday a number of years ago. There was a number of implementation costs associated with Workday that we amortized over an 8-year period. We shrunk that period because of the quorum expectation of the merger. So instead of having an 8-year period, we shrunk it to a 6-year period. So the amortization period shrunk. So we took an accounting charge. It wasn't a cash hit. It was just an accounting charge. Is what happened. And that's a below the line charge. The reason why I say it's a below the line charge is because we're going to now take less depreciation and amortization going forward. So that's why that's favorable. And then other expenses, that was actually favorable by some expense management. So total net income was negative by 2.6 million compared to a budget of profit of 315,000. I talked a little bit about the net operating loss, about the $1.8 million operating charge there. So net income was 4.7 million, and on a year-to-date basis, net income is a negative 15.9 million. So that's kind of the financial report. So yeah, not a great month to have those financial results.
It's kind of trending though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions from the board? Comments? Thank you for doing that. Let's move to the report of the Chief Executive Officer. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We already covered the Joint Commission survey. I don't know that in recent memory we've had a month where we packed as many significant events in as we did. If you remember when we had our April board meeting, just a couple of days after the trauma team here responding very effectively and supporting a small plane incident at our local airport that resulted in 5 patients being transported here to the hospital. And, you know, certainly reported as minor injuries, but pretty much everybody had a bone broken somewhere. And it was a pretty high energy event. And our team here responded really well. Unfortunately, just a few days after our board meeting, we were once again called on as really a series of hospitals now to respond to a tragic school bus incident involving a softball team from a community college. And it was something that once again, I think underscores the importance of the services that Bay Area Hospital provides. That story did include multiple fatalities. It included a significant impact on area first responders. And once again, our peer support team was called to partner and help those first responders the following week really deal with the trauma of responding to that event. We talked about the Joint Commission survey that happened 2 days after that event. Since our last board meeting, we also have a new ratified contract with the UFCW. And we're really excited about what it means to honor our employees with a pay increase and some other key things. I'd like to credit Gretchen Nichols for leading the hospital side of that team, and the UFCW, their negotiating team, for being at the table to prioritize working together to achieve that balance. We certainly ended up giving a little more than we had hoped going into those negotiations. And at the end of the day, I feel like we ended in a good place to recognize and honor our employees under the UFCW contract. Anyway, there's been a lot. So let me continue on with a couple of operational announcements. I previously communicated to the board that Dr. Lee Saltzgaber has vacated his Chief Medical Officer position here at Bay Area Hospital. I spoke with the MEC and will be following up to meet with some medical staff leaders for their input as I think long-term about, what are the goals and needs of the organization at this point in time. So I have not moved to immediately begin a search to refill that role in its previous fashion. And Gretchen Nichols, Chief Operating Officer, is providing executive support to our medical staff office. And I've let our medical directors know that I'd be a direct administrative point of contact. Dr. Atlery, as our Chief of Staff, is picking up and shouldering some additional responsibilities in the interim. I am grateful for that. We have a very effective working relationship, Dr. Atlery does, with, I think, our whole administrative team. And it's important that we continue the connection with our medical staff during this transition. There are a number of medical staff department meetings, and we kind of divided attendance and representation amongst the executive team. So I think we have an adequate interim plan while we think long-term about what the right fit will be. Our human resources lead, we are in the process of what I hope our finalist candidate interviews. We had a second on-site candidate. We have one additional candidate who's scheduled here for on-site. And we are searching for the right person, and I hope that we have them identified in this slate of finalist candidates at this point. That is a position that we have really, if you will, moved away from Chief Human Resource Officer, and we're seeking to fill it with a Director of Human Resources. Again, looking at our current financial situation as well as our needs into the future. I think that we already covered kind of the financial implications. March was quite concerning because it reversed really 5 months of improved financial performance, where we had taken September and October's greater than $2 million losses and had cut that down to something that was running closer to 1.2 million in January and February. Seeing losses return the way that they did was quite concerning, and I think adds additional focus to our work right now as we look at the right set of management interventions to help stem the hospital's bleed of cash at this point. That's work, as I've said in numerous public forums over the last month, that really needs to be done in all situations. If Bay Area Hospital were to remain independent, we need to make some operational adjustments. If Bay Area Hospital were to move forward in the formation of a local health system, we'd need operational adjustments. If we move forward with health system affiliation, be that quorum or any other partner, when we started this process, we had reduced our $60 million loss down to about $5 to $6 million losses. There are very real financial benefits, as we've discussed tonight, from economies of scale, stronger buying power, stronger negotiating power when it comes to payer contracts that can combine to make a meaningful impact in the hospital's run rate. I don't think anyone ever thought that would solve the 15, 20, $25 million operating loss problem. But when combined with perhaps another round of operational interventions, that becomes a winning combination for Bay Area Hospital. I'm going to transition now to talk a bit about advocacy. I think we had mentioned that one of our elected officials had really encouraged submission for funding through the capital project request process. We did receive formal notification that our project wasn't selected to move forward as one of the projects for that highly contested funding pool. We have made some pretty significant progress in thinking about how we would propose structuring a permanent change to Medicaid funding. Would like to credit Melissa Krivitz for helping us with some research and identifying legislation that was passed not quite 10 years ago in the state of Washington, our neighbor, where they identified that there were a couple of key hospitals that were critical to the state system that could be benefited by some increased Medicaid funding. And so we found a copy of that legislation. It was very narrowly focused and really tapped into only 2 hospitals in the state of Washington. As we've looked at really crafting our own definition to address what we think is a need to support sustainability in rural healthcare, we think there are probably 3 hospitals, one of them being Bay Area Hospital, that would meet a reasonably similar approach here in the state of Oregon. And what Washington did was increase Medicaid rates to essentially 150% for these 2 critical hospitals. A similar increase in Medicaid rates for Bay Area Hospital would mean potentially $15 to $16 million in annual funding. That would be incredibly beneficial to stabilize healthcare. I'm happy to share, as we shared the Washington legislation, we do have representatives from the South Coast who are very excited about how we could look at taking something like this forward in Oregon. And that's where we get to some of the bad news. With the conversations coming out of the federal delegation right now and at the federal level around reductions to Medicaid, it's about the worst federal backdrop upon which to be moving forward to petition the state for increased Medicaid funding. So we are working with our lobbyists. In fact, they'll be here on site tomorrow where we can have some additional conversation. But as we continue to advance this and think strategically about timing and language and support and coalition, this is something that will absolutely be reaching out to our citizens of the district and seeking to really mobilize their support, share the details of the plan and the approach, and hopefully get them to phone a friend in Salem, to submit an email, and to let them know how supportive they are of the state making investment. I'll transition now to update on affiliation. Since our last meeting, we did arrive at the point where we could share something that has literally been in the works for months. And, when you're working in a partnership, it calls for honoring that some pieces of the story that you want to tell may not be yours to tell. And that's certainly the case as we were able to share the news of shared commitment from Bay Area Hospital and Quorum for Bay Area Hospital to maintain its not-for-profit status. That process is continued to move forward. There's a couple of things happening in pause right now. Due diligence, we heard complaints, the work that they were involved in. We're now down to kind of some of the final items to respond to Quorum's list, hunting down a couple of contracts and things. That list is getting short. The other thing out there is the regulatory process. When you get into the governmental realm, you're working with influence rather than direct control. And so we're still not able to share exact timeline for moving forward. But there is communication happening, even with federal agencies that give us a sense that things are moving. And so at least having the ability to see some movement has been encouraging. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters of Coos County for hosting a community meeting as we continued our outreach in various forums, making information available to the community at large and certainly the district residents. Saw really a lot of new faces in that audience. It was hosted at the Southwestern Oregon Community College. And I think in the time we were able to respond to all questions that came through the audience and reached us through the moderator. And Chair Cribbins and I were present and really appreciated once again our community for showing up and participating in that public discourse. Medical Executive Committee had requested a redo. If you remember, in February, the CEO, Chris Harrison, was scheduled to be in person with our medical executive leaders and key community leaders. We happened to have one heck of a windstorm that day and hit a plane direct to North Bend with a low pass over the runway before returning to San Francisco. He was able to join the group that night, but only via phone. And we didn't have the same opportunity for our medical staff leaders to ask and have questions answered. So we put forward the request for our senior leader from Quorum to attend a future medical executive committee meeting. I was frankly floored when Rick Charbonneau, the vice president of managed care and development, not only said, yes, I'll be available, but can I come in person? I'd rather be there rather than just virtually. And so he made the trip to Coos Bay and joined us a few weeks ago and spent probably half an hour answering questions and in dialogue with our medical executive community. The access that we've continued to have to the senior leadership team at Quorum, I think speaks of their commitment and it speaks of the culture and the accessibility and the transparency with which they take on tough questions and provided answers to our medical executive committee members. So that was a successful question and answer session. And I think one more piece as we continue to move forward. I think that covers my update on affiliation. So I'll move on to talking about the bank. We have been waiting and subsequently received for a revised list from the bank in terms of things that they're looking for in terms of exchange for forbearance. So right now we're in default. That's the technical default. We've not yet and don't plan to miss a payment. But we have promises or covenants that are part of that revenue bond. And as our profitability has turned negative and our days cash on hand continues to be pressured, we now find ourselves in default with that. We saw them come back with a pretty significant request of $25 million in immediate payment. That is a significant down payment, if you will, on closing out our loan with them. In exchange, they would move us out of default. We'd be in forbearance. They would move us off of the default rate, which is currently about 10.5%, and move us to 5%, which is really a better than market rate, even for a financially healthy organization if they were to go secure a new loan at this point in time. And so I've been working with our CFO as we've been updating our cash forecast, our ability to impact the additional trend line and accelerate hospital improvement. What we have found in BMO is a bank who wants to support the fastest way to getting their money back. And that means not asking for so much that the hospital runs aground before we're able to get to greener pastures and move forward with planned affiliation. So we're assessing our current cash position as well as the shrinking uncertainties in terms of timeline. There are going to be significant costs with attorneys in even putting together a simple forbearance agreement. And so as we look about and get additional information about the anticipated timing, does it make sense to go through the step of an interim forbearance, or might we be able to wait and subsequently save a lot of effort and money by waiting till we have additional information and could just move forward with something that is more definitive rather than going through that interim step. So that dialogue is ongoing right now. The conversation sits with the bank. The next step in the process sits with us. And we've been consulting bond counsel, our special finance counsel, with deep expertise in restructuring so that we're being informed of all the options and best positioned in our limited negotiating spot here to secure the best terms for Bay Area and support our mission to provide care for the community. That concludes my planned update for the board. As usual, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Brian. I just want to clarify, the bank in this redirection and working with this is fairly contingent on us moving forward with the affiliation.
Our biggest carrot, if you will, to entice the bank to be flexible and work with us has been to provide a pathway that ensures certainty of repayment. And for us, the best option right now, the fastest option that we've been able to identify is that affiliation with Quorum. And so as we've updated them, really over the last year, they've been very tuned in and have been very favorable with the actions that the board has taken, not only in the due diligence to explore that option, but then to sign the letter of intent and plan to move forward with that. So yes, Troy, that has been an important context for the bank to even give us the latitude that they're giving us at this point.
Anyone else from the board? Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Brian. Let's go into executive session.
For those of you online, we will be putting the camera and the microphone on mute.
Thank you, Jen. So can I just ask?
But we're still resuming normal session.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we could come in and talk one-on-one.
You can have a seat. The only person out there?
No.
So we're out of executive session. I was trying to give a few minutes for members of the public to return. I don't see anyone coming.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
Okay, she did.
Would you like to return?
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So now just the vote for the credentialing report.
I move to approve the credentialing report.
I have a motion to approve the credentialing report.
Seconded.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Credentialing report passes. And Dr. Outler, you said you already gave us the medical staff report. With that, this meeting's adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, in that medicine.
You shouldn't have to.
No, sorry.
Thank you, Dr.
Oh, thank you, Denise.
Not in someone.
Some people like
It's kind of offensive.
it is.